I think when you see your work, without knowing the background story of it, you're gonna have two reactions. The first is like, this is beautiful and I get nostalgia. The second, it better be made by somebody that has a tie to the connection or a connection to the culture,
Yes.
right? Because there is, I think, it's not that we're in fashion, and we've been in fashion for 3,000, 5,000 years.
Yeah.
If you look at how far back some of these designs go. For you, do you find yourself having to explain a lot more of that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it was August of 2020 when like everything took off. I had a lot of emails of people asking, kind of like, "Are you Mexican? Like, are you appropriating this?"
Ooh.
Like, who? A lot of people thought the artisans were making the garments, and it's kind of like that's why we're so focused on like storytelling and being able to be as transparent as possible about the process, and just kind of like, I am from Mexico. I speak fluent in Spanish, and like I grew up there, and most of my family is still down there. But yeah, I've definitely found myself having to explain and kind of like say like, it's a conversation to be had whether we're appropriating our own culture and like all of these textiles in some ways. But at the end of the day, I think we're just trying to give these textiles that like I saw when I was growing up, like a new life and a new purpose. Because something that I really learned and like seen going to Oaxaca and Chiapas is a lot of the weavers, they're on the older age, around like 60, 70 years old. And a lot of these techniques on like weaving on a pedal loom or a backstrap loom, they can be lost, which is like the saddest part. Like they can be lost within like the next decade, 2 decades or 3 decades. And these younger people have like become so exposed to Western culture that they find no interest at all in weaving or like learning to weave just like their moms and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, how can we try to make this exciting again in some ways?
Did you realize you were going to be a storyteller when you got into this business?
No, no, not at all. And that's kind of like what we wanted.
This man here is the incredibly talented Alejandro Gutierrez, one half of Graciano and Gutierrez, an apparel company of goods made by hand here in Portland, Oregon. Look around at all this beautiful stuff. Dress shirts, jackets, pants, dare I say, almost too beautiful to even wear. All of them made from textiles from indigenous communities in the states of Oaxaca and Chiapas, Mexico. The finished product is made here in the city within this beautiful studio. When I look at this work, I don't see shirts and jackets. I see a platform for Mexican artisan work. I see culture, I see nostalgia, I see ancestry. Even if you aren't connected to the culture, you feel something when you see them up close. Thousands of years of indigenous traditions continuing here, and out of all places, Portland, Oregon. My name is Angel Medina. I am a lover of coffee, mezcal, and anything properly deep fried. In 2017, I quit my daytime job to pursue my passion for coffee. Since then, I've opened 4 cafes and 4 restaurants, including the beloved República. In addition, I've spent the last year writing about culture, community, and food, all so that I can share with you the stories of the people reinventing and reimagining the future of this beautiful city. People who look, speak, and sound like me. These are their stories.
At what year in college did you fall into this path?
Into this path, probably it was like around the 3rd or 4th year.
What year was that?
2017.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I remember the first time I found these textiles. I was doing an internship in LA, and I went back to Merida to see my family, and my friend Aranza showed me these textiles that she was working with. She was doing upholstery, and I was like, oh, that's like some beautiful textiles.
Right.
Which that led me to take a semester to do just research, and I went back to Merida to work with indigenous communities and to source the textiles, and that's when I first met these families in 2017.
It's quite a change from, I know a lot of, maybe not all of it, but some of what you source comes from the other side, in Oaxaca, right?
Yes.
But this started in Merida, which is a whole different stylistically, it's a whole different type of doing things.
Yes. It all started in Merida just because that was like the place that I could go and have a home base while I was still in college, and stay there with my family for 6 months. And then I traveled to Oaxaca and Chiapas to kind of like source textiles because I knew those were the places that had kind of like what I was looking for. But yeah, Merida in Yucatan has like a whole different history with henequén and with bordados and stuff like that that eventually we definitely want to get into.
Going back to post-college, you graduate, you're in Cincinnati. What year is that?
2019.
2019.
Yes.
So this is right pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic.
What drives you to come to Portland?
My girlfriend. Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So after graduation in 2019, I moved here, and
What month is that?
I moved in June 2019.
Did you have a business plan?
No, not at all.
Did you have an idea that this was what you were going to do?
Yes,
Okay.
I knew I wanted to. Well, the brand was actually our thesis project. Me and Graciano, who's the other half of the brand, we kind of like came together in college, and he has a high focus on like graphic design and like a really nice detail for like workwear. So we kind of met in the middle, which was like bringing these two aesthetics together of the textiles and the traditional workwear. And we combined our capstones and we made the brand. And like the first collection, we debuted it in May 2019, which was like the DAP fashion design show.
It's quite a thesis.
Yeah, it was. We were very proud of it. It did really well, and I kind of like already knew since before graduation I wanted to continue this after graduating because I put probably like 2 years of my life into it already by that time.
Now you're in Portland at that point. This is summer going into fall, right? When did you finish the first piece? What timeline was that? When you were like, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of development coming to it.
Yeah.
But the first time that you take your tag, right, and that you has a name on it, that you see this print and you're like, oh shoot, I got to stitch this to the back of it, or however you do it.
Well, the first one was for our first collection that we showed, but those were mostly like samples. The first actual piece that I kind of sold to someone, and it was like the first thing that I made, and I was like this is going to someone. I'm putting this label to like showcase it to someone. It was to Fabi Reina, who's the owner of She Shreds magazine. As soon as I moved here, I met her and I made a suit for her show Reina Tropical.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the first thing that
it's a pretty iconic suit.
Yeah, pretty. We worked really hard on that. Like I finished it 2 hours before the show, and that was like the first thing that I kind of like put my name to.
How hard do you think it is for people when they look at it to? Sometimes them on just without thinking, they immediately look at what you do, and they think like, oh yeah, you can get these anywhere, and you can go down to Centro and get it. Like that must be tough for you to.
Yeah, I've gotten messages of people saying like, oh, I've seen those shirts in like Mexico City for 100 pesos or 200 pesos. Like, why are you charging 250 for a shirt? And
I would just tell them buy it. You're like, buy some, bring them here, start your own business, right?
Yeah, and
I'm assuming you were a lot more polite than I am.
Yeah, it's tough, because I put so much work on the website and our Instagram to tell the story, and you find like a lot of people don't really read a lot or like don't really care to kind of like go through all the details, as long as they find like something to nitpick and kind of like tell you, oh, like why are you doing this, and then I'll just point them to the information on the website, or pretty much just say, like, I have never seen these pieces being sold in Mexico the same way, or like these textiles being used in the same way. But then it's like there is a reason why they're selling it for 100 or 200 pesos. It's because like a lot of these indigenous people, like that's what they need to be able to feed themselves that day. So like they will devalue their own work.
Correct.
Right? And it's like there is this culture.
That's such a challenge.
Yeah, that's a challenge. It's like, yeah, they're charging them 200 pesos. Like, do you really think a shirt is worth 200 pesos? Like, it's not. Like, the reason that this is worth what it's worth is because we're paying the families a fair wage. And also like the whole process of making the pieces is like, a short sleeve, like this jacket probably takes between like 6 to 7 hours from beginning to end, just sewing it. And cutting it.
Amazing.
That doesn't include the weaving of the fabric. And it's like if you tell me that I should sell it for 400 pesos, that makes it like I pay somebody 15 pesos an hour. It's like it's not a livable wage and it's not realistic. So people have these expectations due to like fast fashion. you know, of like that is not worth that, or like that should be worth like a lot less. But like really, like, you know, clothing and all this kind of stuff should be worth a lot more, because especially if like you know who's making it and you're supporting the communities that are making like the fabrics, and just like the cost of living is just like not 15 pesos an hour.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one. I think for me coming from
Fast fashion. For anyone not familiar with the term, fast fashion simply means something that was done on the cheap and with a quick turnaround. This is why those big global chains capitalize on a trend, or better yet, a moment. Look, I'm certainly not one to speak on fashion, but I can tell you the reason why this is such a trending conversation is because fast fashion doesn't care about much. The environment, the materials used to make those garments, or the people working in unsafe conditions risking it all so that the world can get all their skinny jeans available at any size. Fast fashion promotes one thing: quick turnaround, big margins. That's it. Alejandro here is certainly not the only person going outside of this model, but he just so happens to be a brown man building a brand on cultural heritage and ancestral craftsmanship, values that go back as far as the time of the Olmecs. He's not reinventing the wheel, he's simply here to remind us all as to why that wheel still exists.
I'm so glad that you're, at least with this, going outside of the cliches, going outside of what people expect Mexican textiles to be, that somebody's telling a story, especially in this city that is yearning for so much of this culture, not just ours, but like any culture.
Yeah.
Like I said to you earlier, like it's such a difference from what this used to be pre-pandemic to now, that I hope that you stay here for the long run. I hope that, wait, how many square feet do you have here?
Funny, it's probably like 260.
260?
Yeah, 260 square feet.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely outgrown this space. Funny, just within a year. You know, I mean, it's, yeah, so it's...
Well, good luck with the next stuff. I don't think you need my good luck saying, but I think you're gonna kill it. I'm excited to see. I'm happy to be able to see this where it's at right now, and I cannot wait to see it 2 years down the line when, you know, I have to make an appointment to come see you.
Oh, never have to make an appointment. Always a drop-in.
Sale.
You can always
Gracias, carnal.
Muchísimas gracias.